ever wondered why some people seem to have a gift for music? Have you ever wished that you could play by ear, sing in tune, improvise and jam? You're in the right place. Time to turn those wishes into reality. Welcome to the Musicality Podcast with your host, Christopher Sutton.
Hello and welcome to the Musicality Podcast. Today I'm joined by Stuart, Andrew and Adam from the Musical U team to follow up on our recent episode 100 celebration and talk about one of the themes that came up among several of our guest experts on those episodes. We're going to be talking about listening as the route to musicality. And it's interesting because that is, to me, an obvious idea at this point. You know, the way I've been immersed in ear training and musicality training over the last decade, this is just front and center in what I think about. But it was fascinating to see the different guises it came up in among our experts. So, for example, Andy Wasserman noted that the music inside of you is what makes music appeal to you. When you hear a song you like, that is it resonating with your inner musicality. Fiona Jane Weston talked about listening for the message in the music. Forrest Kinney and Bill Hilton talked about exploring in an improvisational way and listening to yourself to see what you're coming up with. Katie Wardrobe recommended this as her top tip, to listen actively all the time to develop your ear. Gerald Klickstein gave the fantastic advice to record yourself when you're playing or practicing and listen back, because that's an amazing way to accelerate your learning. Matthew and Jeremy from Music Student 101 talked about listening as one of the activities you can do to level up your musicality. And finally, Kendra McKinley stood out to me as someone who talked about not focusing all too much on your contribution and the importance of listening to the other voices around you. For example, if you're in a band, being aware of everyone else that's playing, not just your own notes. So this was a core idea that came up in a lot of different ways, and so I was really looking forward to getting together with the team today to talk about what this means to each of us, listening as the route to musicality. Before we dive in, I'll just ask everyone to introduce themselves. Stuart, why don't you kick us off if you could just say a little bit about yourself and your role in the Musical U team.
Hi, my name is Stuart Hilton, and I am the community conductor inside Musical U. And outside of that, I play guitar, teach guitar, play a few groups, and there you go.
Hello, I'm Andrew Bishko. I'm the product manager at Musical U, helping to write new materials and organize them and talk with members. In addition, I'm the content manager for the Musical U blog. Outside of that, I'm a music teacher. I'm a multi-instrumentalist playing woodwinds and keys. And I have a mariachi band with my wife. I play accordion in that band.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Liette. I'm the communications manager here at Musical U. I'm a trumpet player, a guitar player, and lately started singing in the church choir.
Very nice. How's that going for you?
It's absolutely wonderful. I love it.
So, Andrew, why don't you kick things off for us? I know you're someone who's thought a lot about listening in the context of learning and playing music. Tell me, what comes to mind when I talk about listening as the route to musicality?
Well, listening, I don't know if you've ever been around those kind of guys. Some guy comes to a session, he gets out his guitar, and he's like, and it's like, doesn't matter what else is going on in the room. He's listening, but he's just listening to himself. And it's like if you would breathe out, you're breathing out, and you never take an in-breath. The listening is the in-breath of our music. We focus sometimes, we get so much into playing, we're doing this, we're making this sound, but take a chance to take an in-breath. So, the other thing is that many of us listen to music casually. Music is going on in the background. And with recorded music, music's going on everywhere all the time. But it's very important to develop the skill of active listening. Not only is it important, but it's really fun. To listen deeply to the music that you're on. Personally, I can't do anything when music is on. If music comes on, it just grabs my attention, and I can't have background music, but other people can. But the idea is to focus. You might want to focus on one instrument, or you might want to focus on the interaction between two instruments, on the dynamics, on any musical element, and you'll learn so much from it. And it's so enjoyable. It's so enjoyable to see how all the parts come together to form the whole. This can even happen listening to one single melody line, focusing on listening to that. And listening, it's kind of like this, okay? Let's say you're asking somebody on a date, and you say, first, there's two guys going to ask a girl on a date. And guy one says, "Wow, baby, you're hot. Let's go out." And guy two says, "Oh, I really like the way you parted your hair on the other side today. And that color in your blouse really brings up your eyes and the color of your eyes. And you know what you said to Jimmy over there? That was amazing. I really like the way you responded to him. I'd like to get to know you a little better. Let's go have some frozen yogurt. You know, who's going to get the date?" I mean, you know, maybe the first guy's more honest and the second guy's a serial killer. But at least the second guy was listening in a way. He's looking, he's observing, he's taking it in, he's taking an in-breath. It's the same thing with music. It's so much more nuanced, so much more dimensional, and so much more enjoyable and musical when you're listening to yourself, listening to others, and when you make a practice of active listening through your day and through taking some time to do that.
Terrific. Well, I was expecting to call this episode about listening, but I think it's going to be about serial killers and froyo. I think for me it's been a funny one because with my marketing hat on, I've always struggled with whether people care about the really important point that improving your ears helps you enjoy music more. Like that to me is a really powerful thing, that when you learn to recognize notes or chords by ear, or you learn to hear parts in parallel or identify instruments or audio effects by ear, it transforms the way you enjoy music. And if you're passionate about music and you love listening to music, what could be better than hearing it 10 times more clearly and more vividly? And yeah, I don't know. I think I've struggled with whether anyone else gets as excited about that as I do. And it's a lot easier to talk about, you know, you can play chords by ear so you don't need to look up chord charts anymore. That's very specific and tangible. But to me, a big part of what's exciting about developing your musicality and these inner skills of music is, as you described there, you know, the ability to relate to the music around you and the music you enjoy and hear in a very different way. How about yourself, Adam? What are your thoughts on this, on listening as the route to musicality?
That was really inspiring. Thank you. I'm going to go a completely different direction, though. Okay. One of the things we talk about a lot here at Musical U is, you know, how powerful it is to play with others, you know, get different musicians together. And, you know, that was something we did back in the conservatory, too. I studied trumpet at the conservatory, and we were in this school of thought. It was called the Bill Adam, no relation to me, Adam. Bill Adam, who was the legendary trumpet professor at Indiana University. And part of his philosophy was you need to spend 50% of your time resting in between the notes. And that was just to allow your muscles to recover, all your facial muscles, keep your brain focused, because we would play, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. And one of the things that my professor really told us we had to do was find a partner to play with, because trumpet players typically have what we call daily routine, and it's very rudimentary stuff. It's all your long tones, your standard exercises, stuff from the Arbin method book, and it can be a bit monotonous after a while, especially when you're talking about these 1.5 to 3 hour long practice sessions. But like I said, we were told find someone else to play with. So when I was an underclassman, I would find the best trumpet player to play with. And when you're playing with a partner, it's literally like a synchronized dance where the upperclassman would play the note first and then I would repeat it. and then he would play the next note, and I would repeat it, and it would go on and on for 2.5, 3 hours like this. And what I figured out later on was by doing this, I spent a full 50% of my practice time listening to the other trumpet player, mimicking his sound, ingraining that sound into my mind. And over time, I was then able to make that kind of sound as well. And it was really kind of crazy. After a while, you could walk through the hallway with 50 trumpet players all playing, and you could walk through with your eyes closed and be like, there's Rob, there's Zach, there's Heather. We all knew each other's sound. It was ingrained in us. And I just think we talk about listening a lot, and listening is very important when learning literature and new songs, doing audiation training. But personally, I found the most transformative part of my music education and experience came when I applied listening to the very fundamentals of music. So, yeah, that's what I miss the most about the conservatory is I play alone now. And I need to get some more trumpet players in my life so I can practice with, and definitely look forward to that in the future.
That's very cool. Wow. And that's such a great example, too, of how something that can seem like a magical ability actually just takes time and practice. You know, if you had said to someone, oh yeah, I could identify 5 or 10 trumpet players just by their sound, they'd be like, what? No, all trumpets sound the same. Are you kidding? You must be some kind of magic man. But as you describe it there, you know, if you spend half your time listening, your ear is going to get as good as your fingers, and that kind of skill is within reach. And I think Andrew and I talked about it when we did an episode on playing multiple instruments. It's that thing where learning to play an instrument means you hear it in a completely different way. And you just described that vividly for trumpet. But I think any instrument you get to even a mediocre standard on, when you hear that in a recording, you have a visceral response to it.
And the other added benefit to this is we were close. We were brothers and sisters. There's always competition in a studio. But you genuinely cared about your friend's progression. So we're still close to this day. And yeah, that came because of all those hours spent just dancing back and forth from note to note, exercise to exercise.
Nice. How about you, Stuart? How has this come up in your musical life?
Well, Adam, I just want to let you know, you're going to be living closer. I have played trumpet. However, it's been 30 years, so you will definitely know it's me playing when I start trying to play. Anyway, on the topic, I'm someone who loves to sit and listen to music, especially, if it's on. I love having a good stereo system in the car, and, we have 2 stereos in the house, and in our basement, when we finished it, I told my wife I want it set up so I can sit and listen to music down here loudly, possibly. So we have it kind of set up as such for me to do that. So, some people think there's an earthquake going on in a close vicinity to the house at times, but nope, it's Stuart. He's downstairs listening to music. But I enjoy listening because I think Andrew had discussed this, and even Adam. I like listening to how the music goes, and even like the little subtleties, like zeroing in on, what the guitar does, what the bass does, what the drums are doing in certain parts, maybe the vocal harmonies. Oh, wait, there's other instruments going on that I didn't realize were there. We did some contests a while back on Musical U, or not a contest, but it was like a challenge. And it was for people to listen to the song and listen for the different instruments that were going on. And I think it was Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. Brian Wilson he used stuff that you would have never thought people would have used in a recording session. But if you listen real closely, you can hear all these little bizarre things going on that you knew were there, but you never really listened and paid attention to what was going on in the recording. And it's just amazing how many instruments he would use, doing some of those, 2.5, 3 minute songs. It's like, good grief, these are like orchestrations. So to me, it's very enjoyable listening to how that goes. Because to me, when I listen, if you listen to some really good music that you like, I always kind of think of it as, I like going driving, and it's like taking like a back road through, the countryside that you've never taken before. And it's seeing all these new things along this road, a barn over here, or, I never noticed this lake over here. And that's kind of like listening to music. It's all these neat discoveries that can come. And to take this to one more level, I've done some recording in the past. And the last recording I did, we got to actually do it. We used new school technology to kind of record old school. So we recorded as much as we could live. So there was no cut, copy, paste. Every track we did was kind of done. We hit record and let it go. But then we also kind of took, the bassist and I would sit and listen and go. We took a chance to sit back and listen and go, did that work there? Do we need to maybe make more space there? Oh, I wonder what it would be like, which was fun, I think it was more in the 70s, you would hear these really bizarre panning things going on in left and right speakers. So we started doing that. We put that into the recording, and it just made it really fun because, as most people know, if you go in the recording studio, you're paying some pretty big dollars to be able to do some of that stuff. Well, being able, having our own personal, which is big, everybody's got their own personal recording thing. You can kind of sit back and, tinker with, on this side, maybe I'll do a guitar. I'll just play like a regular first position guitar chord. But maybe over here, I'll take it up to fifth position and create some nice little things going on. But, being able to listen and hear how that works is a lot of fun, and it brings the joy into the music. Because, not only are you getting to create, but you're even able to kind of listen and go, did that work? Did it not work? And it's been exciting. It was exciting to do that. I look forward to, at some point, being able to do it again.
Nice. Well, I think it'll probably be on your next project, which will be a trumpet duo with our own Adam Liette.
Yes.
I want to wrap things up just by kind of laying out a few different types of listening we've talked about. And as I said at the beginning, this to me, it sounds like a clear and obvious topic, but there's a lot of depth to it. And we've talked a bit about listening to other musicians, if you're in a band or if you're practicing in a partner way, like Adam talked about. And that can really be a powerful way to develop your collaboration skills. We've talked about listening to music recordings, like a CD or an album, and the kind of active listening you can do. And I'll link in the show notes to a past episode we did all about that and what you can listen for. We talked about recording yourself. Gerald Klickstein was recommending this, and again, it's something we've touched on several times on the podcast before, so I won't belabor the point, but just to say that is a very different kind of listening, and it comes back to these questions of self-judgment and your inner critic and becoming objective about evaluating your own performance. And finally, there's doing the same thing in the moment, learning to be present, as Andrew often touches on in the context of improvisation, learning to be in the moment and really paying attention to the sounds you're making, because that can be the path to figuring out what you like, what you don't, what you need to adjust in future. So those are 4 different types of listening that I think can each really contribute to your musicality development. And I just wanted to wrap things up by laying those out and challenging everyone listening to take a minute and just think about how you're using each of those in your own musical life. I'm sure you're using one of them, but I'd be surprised if you were using all 4. And I know that for myself, it's easy to forget that I should be recording myself when practicing, or it's easy to, get caught up in technique and forget to pay attention to the notes I'm making. And so I think just having in mind those 4 different types of listening and asking yourself, how am I, or how could I be using this in my own musicality training? All that remains then is to say a big thank you to Stuart, Adam, and Andrew for joining me on this episode. Thank you to you all for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to the Musicality Podcast. This episode has ended, but your musical journey continues. Head over to musicalitypodcast.com, where you will find the links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as bonus content exclusive for podcast listeners. That's musicalitypodcast.com.